The fifth brick: What Good Government Actually Requires. Part 5. The FCC, the First Amendment, and the news that used to be news. The founding charter of the Federal Communications Commission is the Communications Act of 1934, an independent federal mandate enacted by Congress to regulate the airwaves in the public interest. I encourage everyone to look it up, read what it was designed to do, then compare that to what it is currently doing. The gap is the story. The airwaves are public property. Broadcast licenses are issued in the public trust, not as private rights, but as public obligations. The entity that receives a license to use the public airwaves accepts a responsibility to serve the public interest. That was the founding principle. That was the deal. Somewhere along the way, the deal changed. Today, a handful of corporations own most of what Americans see and hear. When that many outlets are controlled by that few owners, the news stops being news and becomes something else. Call it perspective. Call it editorial direction. Call it what it actually is: propaganda with a news desk and a theme song. This will be worth repeating in future segments because it touches everything. An informed citizenry is the foundation under the foundation. You cannot have accountability without information. You cannot have meaningful elections without accurate news. You cannot have a functioning democracy when the information ecosystem is owned by people with specific financial and political interests in what you believe. Now add the inspector generals. We have them, or we had them. Their purpose is straightforward: independent oversight of the agencies they monitor, specifically designed to catch corruption and prevent regulatory capture. A check on the checkers, an independent eye on the people making the rules. The current administration fired most of them. The same oversight that would have monitored what the administration itself was doing. Gone. Not restructured. Not replaced. Removed. Because independent oversight of your own behavior is inconvenient when your behavior requires oversight. This is not a political attack. It is an illustration of exactly why the executive branch needs hard limits on what it can and cannot touch. There need to be areas of the civil service where executive orders have little to no effect, where the order arrives and the response is not a court challenge but a rubbish bin. Some things should simply be beyond the reach of any single administration regardless of who won the last election. The FCC is one of those things. Its job is regulation, monitor acquisitions, prevent monopolies, protect the public interest in the airwaves it licenses. What is not, what should not be, in its charter, is any role in determining what speech is acceptable to the current occupant of the White House. And yet, for anyone paying attention, look up the details of what happened with Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and The Daily Show. The FCC was used as a direct instrument of executive pressure to coerce networks into dropping programming the president found unfavorable, not illegal content, not obscenity, programming he didn't like. That is not regulation. That is a threat wearing a regulatory costume. In our new foundation, the safeguards have to be structural, not assumed. No presidential pressure moves the needle because the president cannot fire the people holding the needle. Independence is not a courtesy. It is an architecture, built in, locked, not dependent on the good faith of whoever currently holds power. I can remember when the news was presented as news. Facts. This is what is happening. If an outlet wanted to offer opinion, it was called an editorial and labeled as such. The separation was clear, and it was honored because the public expected it, and the license required it. That line has been erased. Rebuilding it requires more than nostalgia. It requires structural protection with enforceable consequences. You cannot have the First Amendment and suppress it simultaneously. That is not how the system was designed to work. And here is the danger that goes beyond any single administration or any single network or any single late-night host who said something unflattering. When you find a way to circumvent one rule, even a small one, even quietly, even with a plausible justification, the next rule becomes easier, and the one after that. The erosion is always gradual until suddenly it isn't gradual at all. There need to be consequences. Fast ones. Enforceable ones. The First Amendment is not a suggestion. It is the first brick for a reason.